All right, so today we are diving deep into the really strange, kind of tragic story of Nikola Tesla. This is a guy who basically dreamed up our modern world well over 100 years ago, and then somehow he was just systematically erased from history.
This is the central question, right? It's the big mystery of his whole life. This guy gave us the actual foundation for our electrical grid, for wireless tech. You name it. So how on earth does a genius of that caliber die completely broke, alone in some hotel room, not even able to pay his bills? It just doesn't make any sense.
And this is where the story takes a really weird turn. Literally hours after he's found, the FBI swoops in, not to pay their respects, no, but to seize nearly 80 trunks of his life's work. You've got to ask yourself, what were they so scared of? What kind of secrets were hiding in those notes? Okay, so to really get how he was just wiped from the history books, we have to first wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what this man gave us. I'm not exaggerating when I say his brain powered the entire 20th century, and it's still powering ours today. And look at this list, it's not even everything. Just take alternating current, AC power. That's the backbone of, the entire planet's power grid. And wireless communication, the very idea behind your radio, your Wi-Fi, your remote control, that all starts with Tesla. The guy was so ridiculously far ahead of his time. It's mind-boggling.
So the big question is, how does a guy like this, a true giant, fall so hard? Well, it wasn't just a string of bad luck. No way. When you really start to connect the dots, you see a pattern emerge. It looks a lot like a systematic takedown, like a series of, well, let's call them assassinations. And we're going to break down all three of them.
All right, so the first hit was economic. The goal was pretty simple: cripple him financially, take away all his independence. This is really where the gears of corporate greed started grinding against him for the first time. So picture this. It's the late 1800s, and there's a full-on war raging for the future of electricity. They called it the War of Currents. In one corner, you've got Thomas Edison with his direct current, or DC. And honestly, it kind of sucked. It was inefficient, super expensive, and could only send power maybe a mile or two. But in the other corner, you had Tesla's baby, alternating current, or AC. It was cheaper, way more efficient, and could move electricity for hundreds of kilometers. It was just a much, much better system. No contest. And Tesla won. He didn't just win, he absolutely crushed the competition. He did this spectacular demonstration where he lit up the entire Chicago World's Fair with AC power, proving to everyone that it was safe and powerful. And then he did the impossible. He harnessed the power of Niagara Falls. After that, the War of Currents was over. Tesla was king. And this moment right here should have made him one of the wealthiest men on the planet. But here's the thing you have to understand about Tesla, and it's absolutely crucial. He never, ever cared about the money. For him, money was just a tool. It was fuel to get to the next experiment, the next discovery that could, as he put it, better mankind. His whole mission, it wasn't about profit, it was about progress.
And this next part, man, it just tells you everything you need to know about the guy. His business partner, George Westinghouse, was about to go bankrupt from the whole war with Edison. So to save the company, and more importantly, to make sure his AC system actually got out into the world, Tesla did something unbelievable. He took his royalty contract, a contract that would have made him the world's first billionaire, and he just tore it up. He walked away from that fortune, willingly, all for his vision.
But that selfless act, as noble as it was, left him completely vulnerable financially. And that opened the door for the second assassination, the destruction of his biggest, most revolutionary dream.
And what was that dream? It was a project called Wardenclyffe. We're talking about a massive tower designed to tap into the planet's own energy and then beam that power and information wirelessly to the entire globe. Think about that. No wires, no monthly bills, just free, unlimited energy for everyone. Can you even begin to imagine how different our world would be?
So, to get this thing built, he gets funding from the most powerful man on Wall Street, J.P. Morgan. But Morgan, well, he saw the world a little differently. When Tesla excitedly explained that this energy would be free for everyone, Morgan asked one simple and absolutely devastating question: where can we put the meter? In other words, if you can't charge people for it, what's the point?
And boom. Just like that, the dream was dead. Morgan didn't just yank his own money out. No, he used his massive influence to make sure nobody else would ever give Tesla a dime again. He was blacklisted.
See, Tesla's dream of free energy wasn't just an invention. It was a threat to the entire economic system being built on oil and coal and, you guessed it, meters. And the powers that be just couldn't let that happen.
So at this point, he's financially ruined, his greatest dream is in shambles, and he's basically a pariah. But the final move against him, the final assassination, if you will, would happen after he was already gone. And this part is by far the most mysterious.
Okay, just look at this timeline. It's really suspicious. January 5th, a Do Not Disturb sign goes up on his door. 3 days later, a hotel maid supposedly just decides to ignore it and finds his body. Then, a medical examiner somehow, and I mean somehow, pinpoints the exact time of death, down to the minute, with 1943 technology, which was impossible. And then, just hours later, the FBI is on the scene, grabbing everything. You tell me, does that sound like a coincidence to you?
So what were they in such a rush to find? Well, tucked away in all his research notes was something else. He claimed he had designed a particle beam weapon, a weapon he called the death ray. We're talking about a device supposedly capable of vaporizing 10,000 airplanes from hundreds of kilometers away. And remember, this is the middle of World War II. A weapon like that, that's not a game changer, that's a world changer.
But the official story that got pushed out to the public was very different. They painted him as a crazy old man. See, years earlier, Tesla had left a sealed box with a hotel owner to cover his bills, claiming it held his device. After he died, an investigator, a guy named John Trump, who happens to be Donald Trump's uncle, opens the box. And inside, just some common, worthless old electrical part. The whole thing was used to publicly discredit him, to make him look like a fraud. The death ray was officially a hoax.
But was it really a hoax? Well, the evidence says otherwise. Actual technical plans for a particle beam weapon were eventually found in his archives. And get this, the very same John Trump who called it a hoax later admitted that Tesla's weapon ideas were highly advanced. Fast forward a few decades, and President Reagan's Star Wars defense initiative, it used similar principles. And today, modern weapons, like Israel's Iron Beam, are basically what Tesla was describing. So no, the death ray wasn't a fantasy, it was just way, way too real for 1943.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most successful part of the campaign against him. To literally erase him from history. To wipe his name from the books and from our memory.
So, remember those trunks? The FBI seized 80 of them. 80! After years and years of his family begging, the government eventually returned 60. Which means that to this day, 20 trunks, filled with the work of one of the greatest minds in history, are still missing. Just gone.
And get this, the US government still classifies his remaining files as a potential threat to national security. Let that sink in. A scientist who died in 1943. What in the world could he have possibly invented that is still considered too dangerous for us to know about, almost a century later?
And that right there is the real tragedy of the Nikola Tesla story. See, our system celebrates innovation, for sure, but it absolutely suppresses revolution. We love a new iPhone, a faster car, anything that fits neatly into the existing way of doing things. But when a true revolutionary like Tesla comes along with an idea like free energy that threatens to tear down entire industries, the system doesn't celebrate him, it crushes him.
You know, it's almost like Tesla knew this was going to be his fate. He famously said, "The present is theirs, the future for which I have really worked is mine." And when you look at the world he imagined, a world connected by wireless power and instant communication, you have to ask yourself, has his future finally arrived? Or are his most important secrets, his greatest gifts to us, still locked away in those missing files?